Oh, need to start
Start from the beginning.
Hang on.
Hi everyone, first of all, welcome to our Visa Livestream. I'm Warren. Some of you probably met me already in one of our fairs or the talk. So today we have Yen Yi here with us from Single Visa. Hi everyone, first of all, welcome to our Visa Livestream. Visa team. Warren, some of you probably with your Visa application already. So the webinar, the live stream today mainly is focused on cell-phone talk. So if you are sponsorship Yen Yi here with us from Single Visa at the same time. Hi everyone, first of all, welcome to our Visa Livestream. Visa team. Warren, some of you probably today Visa application already. So the webinar, the live stream today mainly is focused on cell-phone
I'm Yen Yi and I'm from the
UK. Yen Yi
The
here
team
with us
of
from
6
Single Visa.
OISC
Hi everyone, first of all, welcome to our Visa Livestream. Visa team. Warren, some of you probably today Visa application
and today
already.
we're
So
going to
the
talk
webinar,
about
the live stream today mainly is focused on cell-phone
I'm Yen Yi and I'm from the
process.
team of 6 OISC.
Hi everyone, first of all, welcome to our Visa Livestream. Visa team. Warren, some of you probably today Visa
Hopefully this
application.
today we're going to talk about interactive webinar. I'm Yen Yi and I'm from the Q&A and team of 6 OISC.
Hi everyone, first of all, welcome to our Visa Livestream. Visa team. Warren, some of you probably today
So hopefully this today we're going to talk about interactive webinar. I'm Yen Yi and the Q&A and team of 6 OISC.
Hi everyone, first of all, welcome to our Visa Livestream. Warren, some of you probably yes, this webinar will be recorded. So live today. First of all, this webinar will be recorded. So live First of all, this webinar will be recorded. First of all, this webinar will be
So hopefully,
Can everyone hear us now clearly? If you can, just leave a message so that we know. It's probably fixed now, so
Yes.
please let us know. Just leave a message.
almost is overlapping.
Is it still overlapping our voice? Yes, it's fixed, I think.
Fixed. Yes to fixed.
Perfect. Okay.
Okay.
So let's continue. Sorry about that. So let's get back to the webinar.
Yes.
So we just talked about how to sign up for our
I think you
Visa
might have to
service.
repeat that part.
Yes.
I think you should repeat that part. Yeah.
Basically, for all our current UKEC students, if I'm your education advisor, then you know you sign up for the UKEC service already. We will support you with your visa application. No matter where you are, you want to extend your visa in the UK because you're not going back home for your summer, or you're going back home for your summer holiday and you want to renew your visa back home, we can help you with that as well. So it's a completely free visa service if you are currently UKEC students and entering one of our partner universities. For example, if you are BPTC students, definitely your visa service will be free and we will help you with that. But if you're enrolling to one of our non-partner universities, that will be a cost charge. But if you are not sure about whether you enter into a partner universities or not, just speak to your education advisor, then they will be able to help you to answer that question. If you are not a UKEC student at the minute and you're joining our Visa Livestream today, you might also qualify for a free visa service. So just leave us this message at the end of the webinar and we will be able to help you and see whether you are qualified for that as well. So this is just a quick review of what service we're going to provide to you as part of our Tier 4 application service. First of all, there will be consultation, one of the visa advisor to help you to prepare all the documents needed in terms of money, all the documents, help you guide you through the whole process. And they will also fill out the online visa application form for you, so you don't have to worry about it, and also book an appointment for you. Basically, apart from submitting all the documents and answering a short questionnaire, which we'll talk about it later on,
Yes.
all you really have to do is to show up on your visa appointment. So that's basically the service we provide for you.
Yes.
So, how to use our free Tier 4 visa service? If you're currently a student, just contact your education advisor. So if your education advisor is me, then just send me a message and then I will be able to guide you through the next process. But in general, if you're currently a UKEC student, your education advisor will also remind you about that by the end of this month. They will contact you and start asking you to prepare for your visa application. If you're a non-UKEC student, just send us an email with the detail on the PowerPoint slides, international@ukec.com. One of the education advisors will be able to help you and see whether you qualify for our free Tier 4 visa service as well. So I'll just pass it on to Yenyi.
Yes.
She will go through kind of like the main Tier 4 visa service for everyone.
Yep, so today we're going to go through the actual process, what documents you need to prepare, how to apply for this Tier 4 visa, as well as some other services that you may need, so like visitor visa or work visa, but today's focus is on the Tier 4 visa. So the first thing to consider when you're making your application is whether you should apply in the UK or in your home country. So the first thing that we need to also consider is something called academic progression. So currently if you're studying here in the UK, you will already be on a Tier 4 visa. So you may be able to stay in the UK and make your application. So the most common scenario is that a lot of students here are studying an undergraduate degree in the UK, and I would assume that their visa expires August, September time. So that type of student will then go on to study at a master's, right? So master's is a level 7 course, undergraduate is a level 6 course. So if you're going to be applying for a higher level course, then that is called academic progression. You can make your application in the UK, no problem. So in some situations, unfortunately, you can only make your application back home. So one that I need to emphasize are students who are currently studying at a private institution or a private provider. So institutions such as Inter Manchester or Kaplan, unfortunately those are private providers, and due to the nature of that, you can only make your Tier 4 application from overseas and in your home country. So in other situations such as failing your course, or if you're doing a second master's and your CAST doesn't confirm that it has any related or supports your career, future career aspirations, then you will need to make your application back home. So the next thing that I'm going to talk about is your visa expiry date. So as long as your visa is still valid, you can make your application in the UK. However, you also need to consider what your actual visa expiry date is in relation to your course start date. So in this example, if your current visa expires on the 31st of August, but your new course date starts on the 26th of September, because there is less than 28 days between these two dates, unfortunately you cannot make your application in the UK, so you will have to go home. So you might be considering, oh, what if my visa expires 30th of October, but my course starts the 26th of September. So in this scenario, it would be perfectly acceptable to make your application in the UK if you want to.
So if my visa expired after the course start date, basically I can still extend my visa in the UK?
Yes, that will have no problem. You will have no problem whatsoever.
That's perfect.
So the next thing that I'm going to talk about is a list of the documents that you will need to prepare for your visa. So the must is definitely your cards, your passport, UK 2 photos, BRP card, as well as police registration. So not everybody has a police registration certificate, only certain nationalities have this, but I'll talk about these in more detail later on. So these in the middle you might need TB test, ATAS. So ATAS, again, these I will talk about in more detail later. So if you are a low risk country, so Malaysia, Hong Kong, these type of countries, because they're low risk, Home Office deems them to be quite safe, and so you will need to prepare these documents, so degree certificate, IELTS or financial evidence, but you actually do not need to submit them during your appointment at the VAC. So these are the documents that you may need to submit, but you don't have to. So although you don't need to submit these documents, so I must emphasize the financial evidence. So even though you don't need to submit your bank statement, your funds must have been saved for at least 28 days prior to your application. So the reason why I emphasize that you still need to save the funds even if you are from a low-risk country is because UKVI requests the right to look at these documents if they want to. So if you did not prepare these documents and then unfortunately you got picked by UKVI, then sadly your visa will be refused.
Just one thing to remind you because the sound overlapped in the beginning. So if you have any questions throughout the whole Visa live stream, feel free to leave your questions on the chat box, which is on the right side of the video. So just leave your message. If you hear anything that you are concerned of or you're not sure about it, leave the questions first and then we'll answer it at the end in the question and answer section.
Yep, send me all of your questions. I'll be happy to answer them. So Appendix H, this is a list of the countries that are considered low risk by Home Office. So the ones that I've highlighted in yellow, so Brazil, Kazakhstan, Mauritius, Oman, Peru and Tunisia. So these have been added on the 6th of April this year. So I think most of our students here are from Malaysia. Yes, so this is considered low risk. So like I said, you don't need to submit the previous documents I mentioned, but you would need to prepare. Okay, so this is probably the most asked part, the most commonly, how much money do I need to prepare for my visa? So, okay, so if you are going to a London-based university, so places such as UCL, KCL, Loughborough University, London campus or BPP London, then Home Office requires you to save £11,385. So this is just your maintenance fees, so your living expense, which is equates to 9 months of £1,265. So if you're going to a non-London institution, So anywhere really, so Edinburgh, Cardiff, Manchester,
basically anywhere
not London.
Yes.
Then Home Office requires you to save £9,135. So this is 9 months worth of £1,015 per month. So that's just the maintenance. So on top of that, you will also need to save any unpaid tuition fees. So for example, if my tuition fees is £20,000 and I will be going to Manchester University, so 20,000 plus 9,135, then the minimum that I need to save will be £29,135. So some students ask me, can I reduce the amount that I need to save? The answer is yes. If you pay all of your tuition fees, then you will only need to save the maintenance aspect. So even if you paid all of your tuition fee, Home Office still requires you to save 9,135 or £11,385 for at least 28 days prior to your application.
That's why we're telling you now, because I know at a minute you're probably a bit busy at preparing for your exams or the dissertation, but it's also important to start prepare for your visa application.
Yes.
And these are things you really should be in mind first,
Yes.
Especially the financial part, because it's quite time sensitive.
Yes, very time sensitive.
If you're late in doing that, that will seriously affect your visa application.
Yep, so if you're listening in now, I think now would be the perfect time to start to save these funds.
Yes.
Because master courses start September, October time, and because the earliest that you can make your visa application is 3 months prior to your course start date.
Yes.
So that will take it to about June time. Is the earliest that you can apply. So if you save your funds now, so today is the 1st of May, if you save your funds around May or June time, you wait for the 28 days and then students will get their result in July, right? So if you save now, you get your result in July. So as soon as you get your results and you get your CAS, then perfect. You can make your application as soon as possible.
Yes.
You don't need to wait around. So I think the key here is to save early, get everything ready so you won't have a hard time when it comes to the visa.
So just need to move to the next slide.
Okay, so these are the financial documents that you can use. So what I mean by financial documents is like what type of bank account that you should save your funds in. So in the UK, you can use your current savings account if you have a UK bank account, or an official financial sponsor letter if you are in that category. But I won't delve into too much detail because there will be one. The live stream next week is more specific to those students.
Yes.
So in your home country, so I know that Malaysia has like time saving deposit certificates as well as fixed deposits or a current account. So those is perfectly fine. You can save your money in any of those. Why is it not working? Now I know a lot of you will be using your parents' funds to meet the financial requirements. Although we do recommend that you save the money in your own named bank account because it saves you having to provide these extra documents, but we know that a lot of students do use parents' funds. So if you are going down this route, then you will need to provide your parents' bank statements, so your birth certificate, so an official document to show the relationship between your mum and dad and you. And then in addition to this, you will need to provide a parental consent to funds letter. So in this letter, it will need to include the following. So your parents or your mum and dad, it depends on who. If it's just your mum's money that you're using, then your mum will need to give you their permission for you to use this money in the UK, and they will also need to confirm the relationship between you and them. So this letter, we have a template. So if you are going down this route, you can contact your education advisor or Warren, and he will be happy to send you that template.
Yes, so this is the parents' letter. So just let us know if you need it and we'll send it to you. But we always suggest it's better if you use your own bank account, especially a lot of you are currently in the UK doing your final year undergraduate study already. You probably have a UK bank account. It's easier if you use your own account rather than the parents, just to save the hassle of submitting birth certificate, submitting a parent's letter. It's much straightforward.
Yes. I need to add that only your mum and or dad's bank account can be used. So any others, such as your friends, your aunts, your teacher, unfortunately their bank accounts cannot be used for your visa application.
Yes, so if that happened, for example, your uncle will be sponsoring your study, then you need to tell them earlier, maybe tell them now. It's just because that money needs to save under your account or your parents' account now, just so there's enough time to for the 28-day requirement.
Yep, so moving forwards, your financial document or your bank statement needs to have the following details in order for it to meet UK VI requirements. So it must have your name or your mum and dad's name, the account number, the financial institution's title and logo, so the amount of money available, and then the money so on the bank statement it must show that the funds have been saved for at least 28 days, and the document is only valid for 31 days. So what I mean by that is, so for example, I obtained the bank statement today. That means I need to use or make my visa application within 31 days, otherwise this bank statement will be invalid.
Yes.
So I must make my visa application by the 31st of May.
If you have the financial documents.
Yes.
Yeah.
Travis not working. Okay, so here we have a Barclays bank statement. So this one meets the requirements because, as you can see, there is the Barclays logo, as well as the student's name, as well as the account sort code.
Yes.
Sort code, not really. It's account number that they want. So as you can see, this student on the 15th of August had the opening balance of £29,616.72, and on their closing balance on the 14th of September, they have £28,796.02. So this student has maintained the funds for more than 28 days. So this bank statement,
It's perfect.
perfect.
Yes.
It gets a tick.
So for students who are using a Barclays who use Barclays as their bank account, then you can get this statement easily. Either you will have it by post or you can download it online from your bank portal, right?
Yes. However, if you do get an online one, you will need to go to the bank and get it stamped on every page.
Remember that, that's important.
So not just Barclays, any online bank statements needs to be stamped on every single page. So this one is from Hong Leong Bank. So this one also meets the requirements. So it has all of the previous 6 details that I mentioned. This one is from OCBC Bank. So the only thing that I would say is that just if it's an online printout, it will need to be stamped. So you just take this bank statement to the bank and they'll stamp it for you, so it's for visa purposes. So Monzo. So Monzo is one that a lot of your students use, right?
So either Monzo or other online banking that doesn't have a physical branch in the UK, that's what I'm referring to.
So because it's an online bank and we found that it's regulated by the FCA PRA, However, it does say that it does have restrictions, and because we couldn't find out what these actual restrictions were, we would say that we wouldn't recommend to use Monzo for your visa application because it's a bit risky, because and we did find that if you really do have to use Monzo, you will need to provide the bank statement as well as a supporting statement from Monzo themselves to confirm the authenticity, because I feel like that's quite a bit of a hassle.
Yes.
Then, as a visa advisor, I wouldn't recommend you to use Monzo. Just to eliminate the risk, we don't want you guys to get your visa refused, so that's why we wouldn't recommend.
Yeah.
So that's why we say what we say. So police registration, this is only for certain nationalities will need to register with the police if you're coming to study at a UK institution for more than 6 months. So Malaysian students don't need, Vietnamese students also do not need this. So I won't delve into much detail apart from the fact that if you are not sure whether you need to register with the police, you just need to check the visa sticker in your passport.
Yeah.
If in the remarks section it says police registration, then that means you will need to sort this out. You need to register with the police. But if you don't, perfect, don't need this document. So I wanted to emphasize that police registration was for UK extension only. Applications made outside of UK do not need this. So next I'm going to talk about the TB test. Certain nationalities again, if you're coming to the UK for more than 6 months, will need a TB test. So if you aren't sure where you can get tested, you just need to go on this link to the gov.uk website, and here you can find a list of all of the clinics that are UKVI approved. The TB test certificate that they give you, so an example, this one on the right, they have meets the requirements.
Yeah.
So if you go to any other clinic to get a TB test done and you submit it, unfortunately you will also get refused because it's from a not approved clinic. So if you're going to take a TB test, all you need to do is go on that link, phone up the clinic to make an appointment, so arrange a time, and then on the day you'll need to bring your passport, 2 photos, and then in Malaysia it costs 100 to 200 ringgit, or if it's in Vietnam it's $105 US. So on the form it does ask you for a UK address. We know that a lot of students probably haven't decided where they're going to go, right?
Yeah.
So you can leave that blank, or if you've already decided which university you're going to for definite, you can put your university's address in there. But if you in between at the moment, then leave it blank. Perfectly fine.
Don't put UKEC office address there because
yes, but I had that question the other week. They said, "Can I put UKEC's Manchester address?" I said, "No, you cannot, because it has to be somewhere that's in the UK that you're going to be staying or where you're going to be studying." So no, UKEC's address cannot be put there. So the TB test, it takes about 2 to 3 days for the results to come through. Some clinics I know can do it on the same day. It varies between clinics, but those are the estimated processing times I've got. And the TB test is valid for 6 months. So I highly recommend students to go and get it done now, because in the summertime it will be quite frantic. There'll be all these other students wanting to do their TB test. So remember, like we said earlier, early bird gets the worm.
Yay.
Prepare early. So these are the UKVI approved hospitals in Malaysia. Now I know a lot of students currently listening are also UK undergrad students, because if you leave your home country for more than 6 months and you've been in a TB exempt country for more than 6 months, then you can actually be exempt from doing the TB test. How do you become exempt from TB, from doing the TB test? So a lot of students, when they go home during the summer, they like to use the e-gate, don't they? Yeah. But for the sake of being exempt from doing the TB test, we recommend that you go to like the immigration desk when you go back home, because then you will get this. If you can see on the screen, there is a 19th July 2018. So that's the entry stamp. So if you get this, it will show that you've left your home country for more than 6 months.
So this is really important. So especially if you are renewing your visa back in your home country. For example, you're going back to Malaysia for your summer holiday and you're going to do your visa in Malaysia. When you arrive at the airport in Malaysia, don't use the e-gate. It's really tempting because it's much quicker. Go to the immigration desk and ask the immigration officer for a stamp on your passport. That would exempt your TB test. It's way easier than you going home and you have to do another TB test.
Yes.
If the immigration officer asks you why they have to stamp on your passport because you are a local resident already, just tell them it's for visa purposes and they will be more than happy to stamp it on your passport.
So an alternative to the entry stamp is a boarding pass. So if you're going back home, please keep your paper boarding pass. So that way, this is solid evidence that you've returned home, and then you said certain universities want to see that you have returned home before they issue you the card.
For example, if you are going to BPP and you want to renew your visa back in your home country, they will ask for a proof of return home. This will either be your boarding pass or the stamp on your passport as well. So just make sure you keep a copy of your boarding pass. So don't use your phone as your boarding pass. I know it's tempted to do that as well.
Yes.
Ask for a paper boarding pass, as that would be the official document rather than your phone.
So this TB test is only for home country or non-UK application. So in the UK, you do not need a TB test.
Yes.
So this ATAS I'm going to brush through very quickly because I know a lot of students probably do not need this, but I do need to mention it because it's quite an important aspect of the visa for those who need it. So ATAS is for students who are studying courses which contain sensitive subjects, so those such as chemistry, material sciences, science, engineering and technology courses will need to, these students will need to apply for an ATAS. So ATAS is only for postgraduate students. So undergrads, you don't need. So if you're not sure whether you need ATAS, please check your conditional offer letter. Usually they will say like a CAH number. So if you have that, that means you'll need to apply for ATAS ASAP. So this ATAS certificate is valid for 6 months and it's free. You can apply anytime, but you do need to have it prior making your visa application, because if you don't have it and you need it, you will be refused.
But ATAS certificate is only for students who are going to study a postgraduate course related to science. So
Science,
for example, chemistry, physics, that's related subject. But if you are studying law, art or business, then you don't need an ATAS certificate, so you don't have to worry about that.
This is just a small reminder for those who may need,
Yes.
because you might forget. So in the UK, applying in the UK, we use the gov.uk website to make the application, and then since last year, students who make their visa extension in the UK will need to book an appointment on the UK VCAS website, and then they go on this website, book an appointment, they go to the visa centre and submit the documents. So documents can actually now be scanned prior to your appointment so that it's quicker and easier. And the perk of this as well is that you get to keep your passport So this is a new service that was introduced last year. So applying in your home country. Now, there is currently two systems. So there is Access UK, which is the newer one, and then there's Visa for UK, which is the previous system to make your application. We recommend that you use Access UK because not only is it more user friendly, the questions that they ask, the layout, everything is much, much simpler. So we highly recommend that, if you're making an application, to use Access UK. So there is some differences between applying in the UK and in your home country. So I'll talk about these later because in our questionnaire we also ask these questions.
Yes.
So areas of difference include like travel history and parents' information. So these are extra things that students will need to fill in if they're applying in their home country. So now I'm going to talk about the application fees and processing time. So if you can see the screen, there's quite a big difference in terms of price and the time between the UK and your home country. So in the UK, the standard will take 8 weeks for the result to be released, and that costs £475. But in your home, outside of UK, it costs £348. So obviously this will be converted to US dollars or whatever currency your home country is using, and the results will come out in 15 working days. So I personally would recommend students to make the application back home, not only because it's cheaper, it's also a lot quicker. And I feel like if you're paying for the priority service being in the UK, you can definitely fly back home, make the application, and come back. So I need to add that on top of the visa application fee, there is something called the IHS fee. So unfortunately, that has doubled this year to £300 per year. So if you're studying a master's course, which is 1 year, plus the 4 months that you get at the end of your visa, or 6 months if you're going to a Tier 4 pilot scheme. So that means you would need to pay minimum £450 in IHS fees. Ouch. But unfortunately, this is something that everybody needs to pay. It's not only students, people who are coming like spouse visa, work visa. Theirs is even more painful, £400 per year, but students £300.
But that's why you can save a little bit if you want to apply for your visa back in your home country.
And
you're probably going back for your summer holiday anyway. So some students might say, but I'm staying in the UK until August because it could be you're going to travel around Europe or you're going to be here for your graduation. Still, we suggest you to do it back home. If you're going back anyway in August, you still have sufficient time for your visa application. Just make sure you let your visa advisor know.
Please let us know, because we will need to take into consideration the times that you have, the time that you'll be staying at home, as well as how long it takes for the visa, as well as for start date. So don't worry if you're unsure about where to make your application. You can discuss with me or another visa advisor when the time comes. But we are happy to help you out. So this is just like a guideline or a timeline of the things that you should do in preparation for your visa. So ATAS, we recommend you get it ASAP. So now until June, July is a good time to start to save your money. TV certificate, remember, is valid for 6 months. So we also recommend that you get this done now. So CAS would be around June to August time, application July to October, and then for visa approved, comes to the UK. So this is just a quick recap of the documents that you will need to prepare. Again, if you talk to your visa advisor, and we would advise you, give you recommendations for all of these. We'll just give you advice. Now, so this is our questionnaire. So we've noticed that these particular details are always misunderstood or answered wrongly by students?
Yes, so this questionnaire, usually your education advisor will send it to you by this month or next month, the latest. Would you need to fill it out so your visa advisor will know what to do with your visa application?
Yes, we will be using these details to fill in your application form. So please could you fill it in accurately and honestly, because we will be using this information. Obviously we will double check with you whether it's correct, but in order to minimize wasting time and to make sure it's accurate first time, we please ask you to fill it in accurately first time round. So the first thing that we notice, what visa advisors notice when students fill in our form, is national insurance number. I think a lot of students aren't sure what this is. So basically national insurance is if you're a student here and you want to find like a job here, then you will need to apply for a national insurance number so that you can pay like tax on your earnings. So this number is something like AB 2020B. So it's not like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's like a specific number that you have to apply at like the job centre to get. So national insurance is to do with finding a job. So that's the first common problem that I've noticed. And then another one is, have you been refused entry to the UK or any other country? So this one is quite like a broad one. So students feel like, they might be embarrassed by this question. So I've actually had students who have had visa refusals in the past, but because they didn't write it on our questionnaire, we didn't know. So in the end, that student actually got refused because Home Office said that they were being dishonest.
So it's really important to write down, to answer all the questions truthfully.
No matter how small or how big your refusal was, you need to discuss it with us because it might have a negative impact on your visa application.
Anything you're unsure, just write it down first. Yes.
So anything as well as like speeding fine, penalties, civil court judgments.
Unsure, just write it down.
Just write it down. So parents' details we also need. So I know that some students' parents might have divorced or passed away, or unfortunately we still need to put such details down. So it includes your parents' name, their date of birth, as well as country of nationality. So just those 3 details. So this is for home applications only. UK doesn't need this. And then another area that I feel is quite badly answered is travel history. So before it was a bit of a nightmare, but since last year, Home Office, they've tried to tidy this up, but not really. It's because a lot of students, when they answer details of your 2 most recent trips to the UK, they're like, how do I fill this in? Do I start from when I first began my undergraduate studies, or do I start from like, I don't know, Christmas time because I went to Iceland? So my answer is, if you remember your most recent trip, so for example, I came in September 2018, and then I stayed September, October, November, December. Yes. That's 4 months. And then in December I went to Iceland. I stayed there for 1 week, and then I came back in December, but I've stayed there until let's say June. So then I would put December 2018, and then we'll make the application. So July, for example, I would have stayed in the UK for 7 months. Yeah. So that's how if you remember, I would put that. If you really don't know, for example, I came here in 2015, September, then I can write 4 years. That's no problem to me. But that's how I would answer that question. And then the other ones that I feel is quite badly answered is, have you ever travelled outside of your country of residence, excluding the UK, in the last 10 years? So I know a lot of students, again, like to go travelling. So you actually have to put in all the trips that you've been to in the past 10 years. So in the UK question, there is a limit to 2, the 2 most recent travel history, but the ones non-UK, you have to fill in. I filled up to 20 before. So students, please, can you fill this out, although it might be time consuming?
If you are unsure, like the history, maybe you can go through your passport.
Yes.
When you look at those stamps, you probably know.
I also have asked students to check their emails,
Yes.
because you know how you book your flight tickets. That's another way to remember
Yes.
where you went and for how long and when. Okay. So here at Schengen Visa, we also provide a range of other visa services. So for those of you who are wanting to invite your parents for your graduation or for a short holiday, then we are happy to assist you in helping them do their standard visitor visa. Or for those of you who are wanting to work after the UK, we can also assist you in making your Tier 2 application, or those from like certain nationalities can qualify for the Tier 5 Youth Mobility Scheme. So recently there has been some really exciting changes for those who wish to go down the entrepreneurial route. So Home Office has introduced the Startup and Innovator Visa. So this route is for any budding entrepreneurs who wish to build up a business from scratch in the UK. So the perks of this visa is that it's granted for 2 years and that there is no funding requirement at all. So if you're interested in going down such a route or want to prolong your stay in the UK, then please contact us at Schengen Visa. So our contact details are right here. So that's the end of my presentation. Hopefully this has been interesting for you and useful. So now we're going to do Q&A.
Yes, so before we do the question and answer, basically just a quick reminder. I know there's a lot of BPTC students here with us today. So 2 things you really need to bear in mind. The first thing is apply for an inter-court. Remember, you have to do it by the end of this month, the 31st of May, which means you need to submit an application by the end of this month. Not the confirmation, but just to send out the application. If you haven't done so, just speak to your education advisor. They would be able to guide you through. And then will be the BCAT test. So you should start to arrange a test soon. You don't need to do it within this month because I know you will be busy preparing for the exams. But arrange a test first because it could get filled up in the future. So do it as soon as possible. As Yenny said earlier, early bird
catches the worm.
Catches the worm, yes. So remember that. And then in terms of the free visa service that we provide to you, just remember contact your education advisor, ask for the free visa service. If not, your education advisor will contact you within this month about that and start sending you the visa questionnaire for you to fill out.
Yeah.
Once that's been filled out, one of the visa advisor will contact you as well and start to help you with your visa application. So
maybe you'll get me, who knows?
Yeah. So we will be answering some of the question and answer now. So if you have any questions, just leave it in the chat box and we will be able to answer you right now.
Yes.
But we still have a few questions already that some students were asking.
Okay.
Some students, they're asking that they're going back home. They're going to travel during the summer holidays. So right after exams, they might go to Europe.
New travel equals new long travel history.
Yes, they just want to fill out more of the travel history.
They do.
That's why, or they want to go to, for example,
Yeah,
Europe
they
for
want
holiday.
to kill us, don't they?
Yes.
For 20 travel history.
So, what that affects the visa application if they want to renew the visa in the UK. Yes.
So as long as your BRP hasn't expired, then it's perfectly acceptable for you to exit and enter the UK. So I do recommend those students who are travelling out of the UK to please not lose your BRP card, because you will have a really expensive and difficult time coming back to the UK. So please don't lose your BRP card. So that's one thing. And then another thing that I recommend students who are travelling is to take a copy of their conditional offer, unconditional offer or CAS with you, so that when you come back to the UK, if they feel like, if your visa expiry date is near, and they might ask you, or the controller, like, why are you coming back to the UK? And then if you show them that you have your conditional offer or CAS or whatever, you just say, oh, I'm coming back to make my visa extension. So perfectly fine. That's my recommendation of what you should do. But yes, as long as your visa hasn't expired, feel free to travel anywhere.
We also have one more question that I think one of the students arrived in the middle of the live stream, so we missed the question about the renewing visa, whether they could do it in the UK or they have to do it back home. So do you mind just give us like a quick recap of whether they qualify to renew the visa in the UK?
So the students, do we have to go back to Malaysia to renew our visa, or is it possible to renew here in the UK? Okay, so this one is to do again with your visa expiry date. So if your visa expires before your course start date, so for example in July or August, then in that type of situation you will have to go back home to make your application. But if your visa expires after your course start date, then you can stay in the UK to make your visa application.
We also have a question saying if the visa expires in July,
yes,
and the visa expires while waiting for the visa approval, then can we still reside in UK?
The visa expires in July and the visa expires, well, so as long as you, so when you make your visa application, the date that you apply is when you make the payments. So even if for example, your visa expires the 10th of July, but I made my application on the 9th of July, I'm okay, because I've paid, I've lodged my application. So even though I haven't gotten my results, I'm good. You can stay in the UK.
But remember, there's a 28 days requirement,
yes,
right?
so I feel if your visa expires in July and your course was starting in September, then unfortunately you would need to go home to make your application.
Yes.
Now, I don't know the full details, but from judging what I've just seen, this student
for example,
will need to go home.
If your course starts in September and your visa expires in the beginning or by the end of July, it's still not falls within the 28 days.
No.
So you would have to go back home for your visa application.
Yes.
Okay. The second question is, when our passport is with immigration for visa approval, is it still possible to travel overseas?
No, because they have your BRP card.
Yeah, and they also have your passport.
Yes.
Yes.
So if you don't have your BRP card, then they will not. You can leave, but you cannot come back to the UK. So no travelling whilst the visa is being decided.
One more is, if we're going back during the summer and we have funds in a bank account in the UK, how can we get the banks to stamp our online bank statements?
We are going back during the summer. So we recommend that if you are going to be making your application back home, we recommend that you save your funds in your home country. So UK application, UK bank account. The reason why we recommend that is due to the fact that you can obtain your bank statement easier. So not only if you're making your application at home, but you saved your funds in the UK, you can't get your bank statement. And then if you did get it, then you still would need to send it back home, and that will take some time. And remember, the bank statement is valid for 31 days.
Yes, so unless maybe the day before you go back to your home country, you can obtain the bank statement, and you do your visa within 31 days while you're back home.
Yes.
Then you can still use the bank statement from the UK. So obtain it first in the UK and take it back with you when you go back home.
Yes.
Can we work through the renewal of our visa?
Yes.
And if we apply visa in the UK, do we need to TB test?
So yes, you can work through the renewal of your visa, and no, you do not need a TB test if you're applying in the UK.
Perfect. I think there's one more question. What are the main conditions to get the visa for sure?
You need to have the CAS and you need to have saved the money.
Yes. If you're unsure about that as well, you should speak to your education advisor as well. Your education advisor should be able to guide you through the whole process.
Yes. Any other questions? Do you have more?
No, of course.
Oh, we can see them from here.
Yeah, but I think you missed it.
Which one did
Which
you
one?
miss?
With Samad Ahmed.
I got overall 5 in UK via IELTS and then applied on campus Coventry.
That one I can't answer. That
Yes,
was
I
very
think
specific,
that is more
unfortunately.
related to your admission requirement
that one
rather
you
than
would need to
visa
talk to
requirement.
can't
For
answer that
Summit, you will have to speak to your education advisor about that. One of the conditions is if you can only get a visa or a CAS letter if you hold unconditional offer. So if you don't have an unconditional offer, you won't be able to obtain the CAS from the university,
Yes.
and you won't be able to proceed your visa application.
Yes. So no CAS, no visa.
Yes. Why do we have so much reserved in the bank account again? My
Home
parents
office requirements.
Yes.
UKVI requirements, sorry.
Yeah, this is the UKVI
So
requirement. So
it's the rules of the Tier 4 general student visa, I'm afraid.
is IELTS a must? If the uni doesn't require it, do we still need to show it?
So if you studied your undergraduate degree in a majority English-speaking country, so if your degree is from UK, USA, then you are exempt from providing any English language abilities. So those type of students do not need to provide IELTS.
Yes. So I know this one is probably for some of the university. They don't require IELTS for them. So just make sure to have a look on your CAS letter. CAS letter basically will illustrate all
Or
the
even
things
your
that you
conditional
need.
offer.
Yeah, or your conditional offer. But when you obtain your CAS statement, it will say what kind of documents they're looking at when they're assessing the application.
HEI has already made assessment.
Yes.
If it says that, then
You don't
need it. Or
Yeah.
they might mention it like degree certificate, but if you have a degree certificate, then you don't need IELTS.
Here comes a good question. If we're getting a bank statement in Malaysia, does it have to be in pounds sterling?
No, it does not. So if you're saving it in ringgit, then that's absolutely fine as long as the balance is the same as the one in pounds. So the example I mentioned earlier, so 29,135. So for those who are saving it in another currency, we recommend that you use Oanda as the exchange rate, because that's what UKVI also uses. So if you just go on oanda.com, type in like how much you need to save in pounds, and then you will get that amount in ringgit.
We have a student saying that
Actually, last year I remember I don't need 9k in the bank account to get the visa. So just to double confirm, do we need 9k in the bank account?
If you've paid all of your tuition fees, then you still need £9135 saved for 28 days minimum.
So basically, although you might be coming from a low risk country and you applied from your home country, they might not ask you for your bank statement, but if
Yes.
they ask you, you would have to show it to them.
So
this
those
is-
countries who
yeah.
are not on Appendix H or is not a Tier 4 pilot, going to a Tier 4 pilot scheme institution, then you will need to provide degree certificate, IELTS, or financial evidence.
Yes.
So,
If we will be on scholarship, must we still have the approximately 30k in our bank account?
scholarship.
So if you are on scholarship, you will have a sponsored letter, an
Yes.
official sponsored letter. If the scholarship is issued by the university, this will be reflected on your cash statement.
Yes. So if your scholarship, it does say, and then depend if you are on a full scholarship, then I don't know what it includes, but if it was tuition fee only, then UKEC still needs to see 9135 of maintenance fees or 11,385 for those London institutions. So that one, in terms of the scholarship, that will depend on what your scholarship is.
Yes. So I think we pretty much cover all the questions already.
Pretty much,
Can I
yes.
do a summary? If let's say
Sorry.
Abraham Mori, I must go back to my home country.
I think I answered it earlier.
Yeah, we answered earlier
it.
already. So yeah, let's just we do a recap on that question. So if my BRP expires on the 24th of July, I must go back to my home country and do my visa at my home country. I can't do it in UK. This really depending on the start date of your course. If your course starts in September, then you would have to go back to your home country for your visa
because
application.
the difference between the visa expiry date and the course start date is more than 28 days.
Yes, so if you're just giving us the expiry date, that wouldn't be really sufficient to answer the question.
Yes.
But if your course start date is in September, then we will say no,
No,
you
we
will
will
have to
say
go
no.
back home. Yeah. So I think that's pretty much all the questions. If I already paid for the university, how should I have on my bank account?
So if you've paid all your tuition fees, this will be reflected on your CAS, so it should be 0, but you will still need to save your maintenance fees. So you should still have at least 9,000 or 11,000 in your bank account. I think that's it.
I think that's it. Yes. So thank you so much. I know you are busy preparing for your exams, but thank you for spending your time with us today in this Visa Livestream. If you get any questions, if you are currently a UKEC student, speak to your education advisor. They will be able to answer your question. If they don't know, they will refer to Yen Yi.
And my team, yes.
Yeah, she will be able to answer your questions as well. But thank you so much for coming
So
today.
if you missed it today, we have another one on the 10th of May. So I will be back.
The 10th of May will be focused on sponsored student, and we will be using Middle East student as an example. So if you fall into those categories, just
tune in
join
next
us on the
time.
10th. Yes. So when I get my paper boarding pass, sorry, I will just answer some of those questions as well. When I get my paper boarding pass and passport stamp in Malaysian customs, then who do I show this to be exempt from TB?
You don't need to submit I mean, like, you don't need to physically go out of your way to submit, because it will be in your passport. So when you make your application, the entry clearance officer will check.
So because when you renew your visa, you will have to submit your passport back in your home country, and they will look at your passport.
They will look at your passport anyway.
Yes, so for Saman Ahmed, you asked about, you get an overall 5 in IELTS and you apply to Coventry and you got an offer letter. This wouldn't be able to answer by Yenyi. It's just because we ensure whether you're getting a conditional offer or unconditional offer.
Talk to Warren.
Yeah, just speak to your education advisor if you have one already. If not, send an email to international@ukec.com and one of the education advisor will get back to you about that question.
Yes.
So for the last question from Wahima about you pay for the university and you live with your family, how should I have on the bank account?
So this one is, I would assume, would be a Tier 4 dependent. So Tier 4 dependent, unfortunately, our visa
you will be. You pay for the university already. Although you're living with your family, that still falls as a maintenance fee.
Yes, you still need to provide evidence of your maintenance fee.
Your passport should be stamped within 6 months. So when we say to stamp on your passport, it means when you go back to your home country, for example, you're going back to Malaysia for summer holiday and you're going to apply for a visa there, when you arrive in Malaysia, remember to get a stamp on your passport.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
To show that you've left, you've stayed at a TB exempt country for more than 6 months.
But how about if I left UK, for example, for a year already?
Then you will need to get another TB test.
Yeah. So if you're currently at your home country, you previously studied in the UK, but you've been away for...
Or you're working.
Yeah, but you've been away for more than 6 months.
Yes, more than 6.
Then you would still need a TB test, if that's your question. Just to confirm, for the scholarship part, you will have a letter to show the reduction in tuition fee, so we just have to show what we have that amount, right, after deduction. Yes, so after deduction, if the scholarship is issued by the university,
it would say on your CAS.
It will say on your CAS, which just means whatever remain on your CAS plus the maintenance fee will be what you have to save in your bank account. Yes, Samet, for your question, I think the best is to speak to your education advisor and then he or she will get back to you about that because your case is I think it's better to look into it in detail before we give an answer.
Advice.
Yes. So thank you so much for coming today. If you have any more questions, just leave it with your education advisor. Send them a text and they will get back to you as soon as possible.
Yeah. So. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
See you in the next one. Finished?
Bye!
Has it ended?